Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about the state of New York and the state of the race for 2024. Now before we get started, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure to hit the post notification bell. Make sure to follow the Twitter and join the Discord in the description down below. And so as of right now, guys, if we look at this new poll out of New York City, you can see that, as of right now, things are now looking good for Democrats here. Only 16% of voters would vote for Eric Adams, the incumbent mayor in New York City, excuse me. You can see his approval rating is ridiculously low, minus 48% job approval, and he's even more unpopular than Donald Trump in the city of New York, by the way, which is actually pretty interesting. He's more unpopular than Donald Trump, believe it or not. Joe Biden has a +5 approval rating in New York, which I find pretty interesting. He actually gets most of his support from like older people and even people in Manhattan. That's mostly where he kind of gets his support group, but his disapproval has definitely risen quite significantly since before. He is disapproved of by whites and Hispanics. He mostly gets his support from African American voters for the most part. However, there's probably definitely an underestimation of Trump in this poll and an overestimation of Biden because of the fact that New York City is mostly competitive. What's actually quite funny is that if you look at this poll, it actually puts Biden ahead in New York City by only 27 points. And we have the individual boroughs here. So I have the election shuffler to play around with this, and we're going to kind of do the math here. If we go to the Bronx, which I believe is the first one, Biden leads by 27 points. He led by 67 points here. So that's a 40-point shift to the right in this county over here. That already cuts Biden's lead in the state down by 2 points. If we go over here to Brooklyn, which I believe is in Kings County, that lead is in fact a 39-point lead. So that is almost a 16-point shift. That puts Biden's lead down to 19 points. We go to Manhattan, which is where basically New York County is. It is a 51-point lead for Biden, but that is 20 points down, over 20 points down from the 75-point lead from 2020. That puts Biden down at 17 points in the state. If you go to Queens, it's an 11-point victory for Biden, which is significantly down from the 2020 margin. That puts Biden down at 14 points in the state. And Staten Island, where Richmond is a 36-point win for the former president. And so if you were to kind of do it based off of that alone, Biden is only leading in the state by 14 points. And if you get these two counties over here, which have been particularly right trending the past couple of cycles, that puts Biden down at 12 points in the state. And that's not even accounting for the rest of the counties. So if you were to go over here and we were to kind of go over and do this, and we basically had it where Trump shifts every single county outside of the New York City area by at least 5 points, Donald Trump is going to do significantly better in the state of New York. And this is not even, some places may shift left, some may shift right, but let's say on average, every single county outside of the city area shifts right by about 5 points. That puts the state at a 9-point victory for Biden. So the state would be significantly closer than before. And that's assuming that turnout's going to be just as high as before. That's assuming Biden is able to maintain 4.6 million votes in the entire state. And that cuts Biden's popular vote lead down almost an entire point, which is actually insane. That is absolutely crazy. And so looking at that, you know, Trump may in fact be able to get New York pretty competitive. And if this underestimates Trump in New York City, the state could be even closer than before, which is pretty interesting. And so looking at this, the state of the city overall, everybody says that it's headed in the wrong direction. Even independence is mostly a very bad sign. And so that is not looking good. In all of the, boroughs, it is looking very bad for, at least the people there. Crime is also one of the most important issues for every single voter block, including migrants and immigration is the most important issue. Housing costs for Democrats is the number one issue, funny enough. And so that shows that it's a recipe for disaster for Biden in New York. Now, I'm not saying that Trump is favored, you know, to, be able to lose it, or that Trump is favored to win. However, I think that it could get significantly closer. Here, Biden was able to win it by 23 points. That, I believe, is actually only a point higher than Clinton's lead from 2020. The reason why he was able to do that is because he made gains in some of the areas in upstate. However, Trump actually made gains in the city area, funny enough. But if you notice, Trump made decent gains in the city area, but lost support up here, and Biden netted a point from Clinton. So, in order for Trump to have a realistic shot at winning New York, he's going to have to do better upstate. He's going to have to do it. He's going to have to flip a lot of counties. He might even have to flip Erie County. He's going to have to flip, yeah, this is the county he's probably going to have to flip. And even Dutchess County, he'd probably have to flip that too. So, and that's not even accounting for whether or not they're left trending states or counties or not. And if you look at the polls have it roughly where New York City moves the state. And if you apply that 5 point average, that matches the latest polls. If you look at April, Biden's only ahead by 10 points in the state of New York. And the problem with this is that polls tend to underestimate Trump here. In 2020, the 538 aggregate had Biden up by 29 points, and he ended up only winning up by 23. So the whole aggregate was off by 6. So if you were to apply that same logic, Biden would only be up by 4 points in the latest poll. And if you were to look at this, in a theoretical scenario, if Trump's able to pick up New York, which again is almost going to be impossible, it's going to be ridiculously hard for him to do that. But if he does end up doing it, it makes his math a lot easier, because more than likely, if he's winning New York, he's probably winning Pennsylvania and New Jersey. More than likely. That's the thing. If he's winning New York, he's for sure winning Pennsylvania and New Jersey, just because this little area around here would more than likely be way more Republican than before, and it would kind of probably travel into this little subsection here. And so it is a big problem for Biden. If he's losing New York, Biden's basically DOA. But I think that he more than likely will not end up losing New York. However, if Trump theoretically did win it, his math becomes a lot easier. He doesn't even need Georgia in that scenario. So that's the interesting part. He wouldn't even need Georgia. I mean, right now, he's currently at 279 with Pennsylvania, but more than likely, if New York were to shift to the right by that many points, the electoral map would probably end up looking something like this. If New York ended up shifting that much to the right, this is probably what it would look like, minus a couple of states also flipping as well. You could even probably even see this being a possibility if that were to end up happening, because but overall, Trump's chances of winning New York are very, very slim. However, he is gaining. And one of the reasons why he is because African American and Hispanic voters are really, really trending to the right. And you could see people say that crime and public safety is the most important issue. And crime has gotten really bad there. And illegal immigration tends to be a very important issue. A lot more people feel less safe. People feel less safe than 4 years ago. People say that there needs to be more police officers. Even the only group that actually says that there should not be is 18 to 29, which is actually quite funny. It's more than likely very, very progressive type voters. But you can see that there is a huge subgroup of people that want it to happen. Do you think we need more police officers in the subways? Yes, even young voters even favor that slightly more than even the general question overall, which is very interesting as well. And we were to keep going, we could see that all of the illegal migrants that came here should be deported is 43% of the electorate, which is very interesting. So a strong plurality of voters, it's pretty crazy that that is the case. And so it is not looking good for Democrats in New York whatsoever. It is looking really, really, really bad for them. Do you support or oppose changing New York City local elections so they are held on the same day as elections for president or Congress or president, even in a number of years? Look, plus 42%. Do you oppose or the continued or ranked choice voting in New York City elections? I guess people support that, but I mean, would you support or oppose providing voters with additional information printed on ballots as information endorsements from newspapers, civil and political leaders? People say +4 on that, which I think is pretty interesting. A lot of older voters think that's not good. However, what's quite funny is that independents actually really disapprove of that, but Republicans and Democrats actually favor that as a whole, which I find really interesting. And so there is a lot of rich data to look at this outside of the state. There's a lot of rich data to really look at here because Biden is significantly underperforming his 2020 margins. Even if you look at New York City, Trump got like 12% here. And if you look at the poll now, Trump is at 13%, but Biden's margin has completely fallen. But either way, it wouldn't matter because it would still be his margin of victory either way. And the third party candidates would just get the other votes. So his vote totals could even go down from this. So can New York be potentially be a sleeper close state? Possibly. It could be really close on election day, depending on how Biden's approval rating keeps going, which is getting a lot worse and is a lot worse compared to Democrats on the national level. We could see Biden is at 15 minus 15.5%, which is really, really bad for a Democratic president. Obama, at this time was at about, let's look at Obama as of this time. It is April 23rd. So we kind of keep looking here. Let's see. Um April 23rd on election year, he was already in the positive. He was at 48%. So he was already back in the favorable ratings. He was starting to gain in favorability. Bush, as of this time, even more than likely, I think actually was in, well, not in the positives, but he was still doing relatively okay compared to the end of his term. He was starting to go down quite significantly. He was polling in the 30s and he ended up polling at 29%. He ended up going down to 25% in October, which is pretty insane. He was at a very low approval rating on election day. So, not as low as George W. Bush, but definitely not looking good. Definitely not looking good for a president that wants to win re-election. And the problem with him is that he's been in the disapproval rating for a very long time. He's been in the disapproval for quite a bit. He's significantly been down in the approval rating the entire time. The closest he's gotten to basically getting back to his original, lead was 5.9%. I think this is the highest he's actually polled the entirety of the last like 2 years. And ever since then, he's never been able to match that. And he's been trending downward, which is not good. Now it's stagnating, but for a while he was trending downward. So if Biden kind of matches his approval rating in terms of the popular vote, and if Trump's approval rating is at 42%, I mean, New York could potentially be a state that ends up being lean Democrat if Trump is winning the popular vote by 2 or 3 points, depending on the electorate. It could be anywhere from a, 0 to 10 point victory, and it could fall under 5 in a really, really, really good scenario for Trump. But I'd say as of right now, Biden probably wins the state by like 10 or 9 points, maybe 11 or 12, somewhere in that range. 9 to 12 points is the most realistic range for Biden to be winning New York. And so if you guys did enjoy this quick analysis, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, make sure to hit the post notification, and make sure to follow the Twitter and join the Discord in the description down below. And I hope to see you guys very, very soon.